Hey guys, Lisa Larter here. Today I want to talk to you about how to read a book. Now, you might think that that sounds really crazy because you have been probably reading books for most of your life. So, you read the words. That's how you read a book, right? Well, I'm a high school dropout and I am a lifelong avid learner. And I will tell you that the practices that I use to read a book take the knowledge and help you to really embed that knowledge into your mind, and it becomes a catalyst for taking action. And so one of the reasons that I started Thought Readers a few years ago is because people really wanted to learn and read with me. Clients of mine would say to me, I can't keep up with all the books you read. I want to learn what you're learning while you read books. And the truth is, I've got 2-3 books on the go at any given time. And the best books that I come across, I read several times. And so as we launch into this program, I want to make some predictions. Some of you are going to read all of this book and you're going to follow the direction and it's going to be an amazing experience. And some of you are going to read the first chapter, maybe the first 2 chapters, and you're going to get distracted and you're not going to have the self-discipline to follow through. I want to encourage you not to fall into that camp. I want to encourage you to stick with this for 1 month and see what an impact it can have on your life and your business. So let's get started. I want to share with you what I do when I'm reading a book. So here's an advanced copy of Mike's book that I received a while ago. You'll notice there's a bunch of flags in it. There's flags at the top. Well, when I read a book, I don't just read a book. I don't believe that books were meant to go back on your bookshelf clean and pristine. I believe that books are meant to get dirty. They're meant to write in. They're meant to draw ideas out of. They're meant to, fold your pages over and really, really, really work your book. And so I wanted to share just some best practices that will help you get started. So you've got your book, right? That's the first thing. Second thing you need are some Post-it notes. The third thing you need, I like these flags, these Post-it flags. Fourth thing you need is a highlighter, and you're also gonna need a pen. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to take your book and I want you to grab 4 Post-it notes. And I want you to take those Post-it notes and I want you to stick them in the book so that they stick out at the end of each chapter you're supposed to read. So the book breakdown essentially carves the book into 4 weeks. It's 2 chapters per week. It's 50 to 60 pages per week. 50 to 60 pages. You can read 50 pages in half an hour. It does not take that long to read 50 pages. I'm on my 2nd round of reading this book. I read the book when I first got it, and that's how I decided to use it for the program. And now I'm reading the book and I'm going through it and I'm pulling even more things out for the program. So the first thing you want to do is you want to actually chunk your book so that you know what your reading schedule is. That way, when you sit down on week 1 and you're reading, you know you only need to get to here. The second thing you want to do is you want to read with a highlighter. So if I show you this page, you can see I'm highlighting stuff inside of this book. I am putting arrows in the book. I am writing notes in the corner or on the side margins of the book. So this particular chapter talks about, on its own, revenue is not a reliable marker for a healthy business. And what I wrote in the comment is, you can see that now with COVID more than ever. Big businesses are failing. So when you reading is kind of like masterminding with the author. When you're reading what the author says, ideas come up for you. Thoughts come up, ideas about your business come up, things that you should do come up. Take your pen or your highlighter, highlight the stuff that really resonates with you. Highlight the stuff that you're going, yeah, that was good. And then in the sidebar, write your comments. Write the thoughts that are coming up for you so that you can capture your ideas inside of the book. Now, on the best pages, I want you to do this. If there's something in your book that you want to refer back to later, don't get derailed from reading the book, because we're going to come back to the book at the end and we're going to go back through the book. So you're kind of going to read this book twice. You're not going to really read it twice, but you're kind of going to read it twice. So when there's something really valuable, stick a flag in there. Because when something really resonates with you and you're like, oh, I need to do this, or I want to read this again, you put a flag in it, it's easy to find the thing that was important. You'll see that in this book, I have a whole bunch of flags. And if I open up to any of these pages, here I am. Do you know what level problem you have? You can see. This is not me just talking out of two sides of my mouth. I really do this. And so when you get to the end of the book, you're going to have a bunch of pages flagged, and you're going to have a bunch of pages that have highlights and notes on them like mine do. Now, when you get to the end, what I like to do with my books is I like to go back through them. And I like to flip through every page, and I look at the things that I've highlighted, and I look at the notes that I've written in the margins, and I pull the important stuff out. And I either write it on a piece of paper so that I'm capturing any actions that I want to take. Sometimes I am so crazy OCD, I type it up. I literally go through the book and I type my notes up, and I type the things in the book that really, really resonate with me. It's important, if you want to learn and you want to retain information, that you read with a focused mind and not a distracted mind. When I'm reading, my phone is beside me and it's turned over. I don't want to see notifications when I'm reading. I don't want to hear notifications when I'm reading. I want to focus on reading. And I read every morning and I read every night. So every morning I get up, I feed the dogs, I take them outside, I make myself a cup of coffee, I sit in my regular spot, I grab my book, I grab my highlighter and my flags, and I read. And I read for 15 to 30 minutes every single morning. On the weekends, if it's beautiful outside, sometimes I'll sit on my deck and I'll read for hours. And then every night before I go to bed, I read again, but I don't read the same book at night. At night, I like to read something, like right now I am reading Born a Crime. And it's a true story. It's a memoir, an autobiography that's written by Trevor Noah. And the chapters are really short, but it gives me something to read and think about that isn't business related before I go to sleep at night. But when I start my day with a book that is about business, it inspires me throughout the day. So read your book, mark up your book, write down, capture those precious ideas so that you can go back to them. You can synthesize your learning and you can pull out the things that you most want to do as a result of reading. Reading is one of the most inexpensive ways to learn and take action in your business around. I have read books that have fundamentally changed my life. The first book that changed my life was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that book. I text messaged my husband. I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, tell you what? I said, we need to sell our house because we're never going to be mortgage free. We're never going to be able to start a business unless we sell our house and buy something less expensive. And that started us on the journey to entrepreneurship. The second book that I read that really changed my life was The Millionaire Maker. I read that book and I realized that my delaying becoming an entrepreneur was really all in my head, because that book allowed me to look at the assets that we had and what our net worth was and how to eliminate the risk associated with quitting a really good job. The third book that I read just not too long ago was The Business Blueprint by Keith Cunningham. Keith Cunningham is actually the original Rich Dad that Robert Kiyosaki wrote about. But in the blueprint, he talks so much not about just revenue, but about profit, that I looked at my business and I retooled my focus on profitability. And last year, I literally quadrupled my profit from the year before because I read the book. And I did what it said to do in the book. I met Laurel Langmeyer at an event years ago and I said, oh, I read your book and I did what you said and blah, 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 blah. And she said, why aren't you part of my Big Table program? And I said, well, why do I need to be? I did what you said in the book and it worked. So your job is to be a sleuth. Your job is to go through the book and find the things that are going to work for you. You don't have to do all of them. He's got these, this business hierarchy of needs. It's got 5 things in it and it's got 5 things at each of those 5 things. And so you got 25 things that you could pull out of this book. Don't try to do all 25. Try to pick one. Pick one lever that can make a difference. Know that you impacted your life and business because you committed some time to reading and you followed through. This is the hard part for people. Most people don't have the discipline to follow through. You want to have the discipline to follow through and do what the book says. And if you do that this month, if you stick to the reading schedule and you do everything that I've just described and you take action as a result of the book, you'll be hooked on learning this way. I'm not special. I read with my eyeballs just like you do. The only difference is I don't want to forget what I'm learning. I want to retain it and I want to put it into action because I know that knowledge without action is useless. And it's not useful for you either. So let's read these books together. Let's read this book together and let's change the way you read and implement what you learn. Thanks for being here on this journey, and I look forward to discussing this book further with you.